Progressive rock started in the 1960s with bands like Rush, Yes, Pink Floyd, and more leading the charge that would change rock forever. Almost 60 years later, a band from Wichita, Kansas is on their quest to do the same while paying homage to those who came before. Recently, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Krysis, learning their rehearsal process, hearing songs that haven't been released yet, and talking with the band about what prog means to them. For Televised magazine, welcome to One Night with Krysis. Krysis is a four-piece prog rock band out of Wichita, founded by Brad Sumrall and Lance Bode. Brad plays guitar in the band while Lance shines on keys and vocals. Houston Smith joins in on bass, and the band's newest member, Carson Brensing, joined the band this year on drums. Krysis let me join them at a recent rehearsal and ask the guys some questions, giving a unique behind-the-scenes look at the next big thing in prog rock in the modern day. How did Krysis get together?
From the ashes of an old band.
Yeah. We were in an old cover band, us three, with another guitarist, and things kind of went south. So, and towards the end of that, me and Lance were like, okay, well, we don't like the original music we're writing on this. Mm-hmm. So me and Lance took it upon ourselves to write the music that we wanted to, not even just like put out, but just that we like. Yeah. Not even for anybody else, just like what we like doing. So Krysis started as just me and Lance, playing in my basement. And the first song we wrote was The Summit's Ice, and that was the first song we released. Single. And that's why we put it out first. Yeah. Because it was just it. There was no other one to put out first.
Mm-hmm. And then, how did you end up joining the group?
Well, I had moved in with like the other guitarists in the old band, and then things happened, and then they were like, well, you could always play bass for us. And then I remember like our first practice I showed up and like, so we have two songs, and one of them was Summit's Ice, and we jammed on it, and I'm like, alrighty, I guess it's a thing now.
Has the other one seen the light of day yet?
It has not seen the light of day
yet,
but we have played it live.
Okay.
So we could say.
Yeah, no, it's a staple.
Okay.
In the live set, it usually goes before Summit,
Gotcha.
And we end it with ambiance and then go into Summit's Ice.
Okay. And then Carson, you joined most recently.
Yes.
How did you get added to the
They posted an ad on Instagram, wanting the drummer, so I DM'd him and then had an interview and an audition. It was a pretty fun thing, yeah.
Yeah. And then, because we've been trying to set this up as far back as January, February.
Yeah, I know.
But then it was originally like, okay, well, give us like another month so the new drummer can learn the songs. Mm-hmm. And then I had stuff going on, you had stuff going on, and then now we're finally here.
Yeah, I know. It's good.
Yeah. So we used to work together, and when we were working together, you would just be playing classic rock and prog rock throughout the store for hours at a time.
Yeah.
How has listening to that music, how has being surrounded by that music over the years impacted the songwriting that you bring to Krysis?
I mean, it's really important because it's like whatever you intake is what you outtake. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you listen to, Yes or Supertramp or Rush, especially lyric-wise, music kind of just like flows out randomly. Yeah. But lyric-wise, it's like, the more words you know, the more phrases you've heard, the more like things that you've taken in, the more ideas that your brain can just like naturally spit out like randomly. And sometimes a lyric or a line from a song can spark an idea for a different line that's completely separate, but it's like, well, this is how I interpret it, and I can write something about how I interpret it, but it's a completely different line. They don't even share a word. So it's really just like paying attention to stuff that didn't come from your thought process.
Yeah.
And that's also why it's really good to have a co-writer, is because like we can both just throw out two completely separate ideas from two different brains, and it's just like, okay, well now I see it like you're seeing it, and that gives me another idea, or vice versa. And like I said earlier, it's just like, I write a verse and then he writes the second verse, or he writes the first chorus and I write the second chorus. Yeah. Or it's just we just trade off lines. Like he writes a line, I write the next line. He writes the next line. We do that a lot too. So it's really good to just have like outside influence. Yeah. It's not an ego thing. Like some people get caught up in it. It's like it's about the music, and whatever makes the music better is like what I want it to be.
Mm-hmm. And music moves people, it unites people through languages, you know. So it's inherently a selfless creative process.
Yeah, no, you can't let yourself get in the way, and that's a really big part of it. It's like, well, if he thinks there's a better lyric right here than one I wrote, and it is better, then it's better. Yeah. And I'm not gonna trip over that and, you know, let it that's better. That's you know. And I've learning to, you know, accept when things are better, or like someone comes up for a better transition than I wrote. You know, it's like it's not just like me and Lance write everything and this is the way it is and this is how we're doing it. It's much more of a together process.
This is what's best for the band as a whole.
Yeah, it's like we write the lyrics, and the lyrics are the most important part of the song to me, and the melody. But like when we put it all together, everybody's input is equal, and we usually never fight on parts over that like that. It's like sometimes there'll be like, well, I think this, and then two people think, you know, two groups of two, but rarely.
Yeah. And AM spoke highly about it, just how much like you guys care to be here, care to be involved in this. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah, this is what we want to do. Yeah. I mean, we want to create music and inspire others to do what they love. So, I mean, that's the end goal. Yeah. So Lance, how have you like trained your voice to be able to play these songs? Because in these songs, you're going from super high vocals to super low vocals, anywhere in between, sometimes multiple times in a song. What care do you have to put into your voice to make that possible, make that sound as good as it does?
I started singing really not long before we formed our first cover band, and the reason that they found me was like I'd gone into a musical. It was my first musical that I'd ever been a part of. It was my first time singing on stage in front of like a crowd and audience, and the guitarist of that old band spotted me and came up to me after the show and was like, "Do you want to be a singer in a band?" I said, "Sure." And I knew nothing about singing. Yeah. Like absolutely scratch. And we kind of just like, I don't know, a bunch of covers later and a bunch of me attempting to somewhat sing later, and I kind of figured out like, I don't really like the sound that I'm producing with my voice. And then I got a job. It was a third shift, so I was alone all night at this gas station that was not busy. And I just sang constantly. I listened to a bunch of Beatles. Beatles really helped me get my musical chops down. And I just sang constantly, 6 hours a day at least. And then I went to college and took a few vocal classes and did some research online and got a bunch of vocal tips now. And it's just like, really all it comes down to is practice. Like, how important is this thing, whatever it is in your life, how important is this thing to your goal, to you? And I don't know, I was obsessed with it. Yeah. And so now it's led me to try to like teach Brad, teach Houston. If Carson ever wants to learn, I'd teach Carson how to sing. Anybody else too.
Practice makes perfect. I would love to see some of that security camera footage from the gas station though.
I really don't know about that.
No? Not as good as what you're making.
There was a reason I had to be alone. Okay. I'll put it that way.
Okay. But now, look at you.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. It really pays off in the long run. It's like, if you ever want to do something in your life at all, it's just, how important is that to you? Make it that important. Yeah. You know, live that importance. That's all it comes down to in the end.
While watching, you may have noticed this amazing studio we're recording in. This is Zeptepland, a full-scale audio production facility in Wichita, and I had the pleasure of talking to the owner, AM, and asking him questions about the band. AM, will you tell everybody like how you found the band, how the story came to be of how they ended up recording here?
Well, the band found me.
Okay.
It was actually their guitarist, who's no longer in the band, that was like my point of contact. And when he left the band, Brad became my point of contact, which actually, so they were, one thing that like struck me about Krysis was just how like well put together and professional they were, even though they'd never been through the recording process. But even when I switched over from Miles to Brad, same thing. It was just like I was super impressed with how much they wanted it and how interested they were in getting this done. Because a lot of people that contact me, you know, they'll sometimes waver, or like it'll take a long time, a lot of finessing. But Krysis were like, let's get in the studio. We want to get in the studio now. We don't care that we just lost a band member. We're coming in regardless, which I thought was really really cool, really telling about their personal ambitions.
How collaborative would you guys say the songwriting process is between the four of you?
I think it's very collaborative. Usually it's like Brad or I has this basic idea. Usually, sometimes it's been like Houston who's had an idea, and then we kind of like talk about it with each other, and eventually we bring it with the band once we have it like close enough to do something with. Sometimes it's just like a little piece, and that's not enough to do anything. But you know, we bring it to them, and then they give their input. Carson's helped with some writing decisions. Houston's helped with some writing decisions. You know, Brad and I are like the primary writers, but they put in work as well.
Yeah.
So like it's not just Brad.
You know, they're usually the ones that like Lance said, it'll just be like verse chords and like chorus chords, and then we usually all tie it together.
Exactly.
Like we glue it and put it together.
I like that it's not just one person bringing all the ideas to the table and then the rest of the people being like session musicians.
Yeah, no. If it was, then you're so limited.
Exactly.
And not getting into the lyrics yet, but like we'll be writing lyrics and like we can have a completely different point of view because I send Lance a verse and he writes the second verse, or Lance writes a chorus and I write the second chorus.
Yeah.
Or just examples like that.
Carson, you're the newest member of Krysis, only joining a few months ago. What's it been like learning the band's songs, meshing with these guys, and being part of the creative force behind Krysis?
Learning the songs, I mean, they're pretty different from like what I've usually played. I've only really played in like high school and such, so I'm used to like jazz band songs or stuff like that. But I mean, they were fun to learn. They were fun parts, thanks to Brad writing them. But yeah, it's pretty fun to play them and learn them, and then like mixing well with the group. I mean, kind of just after that first audition I had in that interview, kind of hanging out with them and stuff just helped me out with knowing them and kind of the same humor we have. You know, it's a fun group to be with.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed just being in a room with you guys for the last hour or so, however long it's been, is you guys just mesh really well. And I wouldn't be able to tell without knowing that you've only been with them for a handful of months. Houston, we went to middle school and high school together, and you've always been musically minded, but who inspired you to pick up the bass? Was it someone in your personal life? Was it any of your musical influences where you just saw a really great bass player and were like, I gotta learn this right now?
Okay, well, that's a good question. So, I was always into old classic rock. And then me and Brad were actually working at Domino's together, and we met the guitarists from our first band, and they're basically like talking, and they're like, oh yeah, we should just make a band, we could jam together. And then Brad points over and he's like, that guy plays bass. I picked up the bass like once before in my entire life. And then from then on, I just kind of started playing. And then that first band we were in was a cover band, so we were learning like 2 covers each week.
Yeah.
And that really, really, really helped you just get your chops down.
Yeah.
So I learned the bass real quick, and now here I am. And then I met people, I saw bassists like Geddy Lee from Rush or Chris Squire from Yes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, those people is like majestic playing. I aspire to be to that level of playing.
Yeah. What was the first cover you guys played together that made you realize, like, I'm meant to be a bass player? Like, this is what playing bass is all about. It's this song.
Okay, so that one probably wouldn't be a cover that we learned in the band. But I do remember learning, like, a lot of Rush covers. The Trees, you heard Barchetta, or, like, Cygnus Book 1. And I was just like, man, dude, I can get my fingers to move like this. It's so much fun. Getting the tones out of the bass. I don't know, I would say that Geddy Lee was like a pretty big influence on me. And a big reason of why I want to like push to be better.
Yeah, I've been getting into Rush lately, mostly off of Brad's recommendations, getting more into them than I have been. They're fantastic.
Yeah, no, they're very, very fantastic band. Same with Supertramp, another big one recently than Supertramp, because their play style is so much different than Rush. It's so much more melodic, and he's so much more of a song basis, where Geddy is a lot more of like a lead basis.
Yeah.
Whereas like Dougie Thompson from Supertramp is usually doing exactly what the song needs so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of trying to intertwine both of them.
So this one's for all of you. What would you guys say your favorite song is at the moment? From anybody.
From anybody?
From any artist, any time period. But what's been your like on repeat the last few weeks especially?
Oh man. I'll have to say Fool's Overture by Supertramp.
Okay.
Good one. It's a really good one.
Houston?
I'd say that mine is probably Rocky Raccoon by the Beatles.
Okay.
Oh man, go to Carson.
Go to Carson.
I've been listening to a lot of I'd Have You Anytime by George Harrison.
George Harrison? Alright. I respect that. And you still thinking?
You know, I'll just have to throw out 1985 from Paul McCartney and the Wings. It's just been like in my brain. You know,
That's
it's
it.
infested me.
All good picks? It's almost like they got good taste or something.
Yeah, no.
Go listen to their music to see how the influences play out. And what's it been like recording with the band? What do you think about them, like as members, as a band, and how's it been getting to know them?
I've said this before, and I will say it again. I f***ing hate these guys. Say it to the day I know. They're amazing. No, they're awesome. Like I said, they're really professional. They want it, which is rare. It's rare. Like that makes all the difference in the world when a band cares and wants it and really cares about crafting the final product. And you can hear it in what we've released so far. You'll hear it in what we're going to release in the future. The recording process with them is it was really interesting. Obviously, they're a prog band. Prog bands have, it's a very involved process in that, we've got this humongous drum kit with a ton of toms, a ton of cymbals, bells and rototoms and, this and that. It's just, there's so much to it. So approaching the actual recording of the product was different than some of the stuff I've done in the past where, you get a 5-piece drum kit and it's pretty simple. I'll mix some stuff up. But then you add in all of this stuff and it's got to sound cohesive and large, and there's got to be a large, nice stereo spread. And then you got to fit in guitars and bass and vocals around that. And so we were very, very deliberate in how we approached that and approached the miking, approached what preamps we were using, and how we tackled the project in general. So I think you can really hear that in the final results. And you can hear how much they care, which I'm going to harp on that over and over because that matters the most.
Thanks so much to Krysis for letting us record this interview. Thanks to AM and Zep Tefland for giving us the space to record this interview. Thank you, Televised Magazine, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.